Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you again for joining on this another episode of the Lyme Boss podcast. I'm Heather Gray, aka the Lyme Boss, and I work with frustrated, tired professionals who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Could it be undiagnosed Lyme disease? I know it was for me. And once I got to the root cause of those issues, I was able to overcome my brain fog. I was able to get energy back in my life, and I was able to heal naturally. And you can too. And that's part of the reason why I have some of the amazing guests that I have. Like today, I chased this woman for a little while because I fangirled. She didn't know it, but she's a fellow FDN like myself who wrote this badass book on mold. She has a mold summit. Like she's doing so many amazing things in the world right now. And you're also a licensed acupuncturist, correct?
Yeah, that's how I started my medical world. Yeah.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Everybody, let's welcome Bridgit Danner to the show.
Thank you. I know. I'm like,
I know I need to get a sound clip.
you do. You need a
funny.
pause machine.
That would be awesome. Oh my gosh. I could have a lot of fun with that.
You can have other sound effects too.
That's where I went. I was like, oh my God, I could have so much fun with that. Anywho, I digress. We're going to have a lot of fun, I can tell. But I would love, like, oh my gosh, your book, it is funny. Like, I don't know if the camera can see, but do you see all those? Those are all, yeah. Do you see that? That is all the pages I have dog-eared
nice.
in your book. Like, that's what we're looking at. Like, this was just such a beautiful guide. And I would love for you to go, tell us your story, tell us your backstory. Like, why did you get into the mold world to begin with? And yeah, give us a little.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you buying the book. People don't buy books as much as they used to, but I really wanted it to be like a kind of a legacy of everything I've learned about mold. So the people who do pick it up, can really know like literally everything I know at the moment of writing. So yeah, I appreciate that. I did not plan to get into mold. I was just an environmentalist from a young age. I don't know why, I just was. So I was studying art in college, but I was like, I need to change the world. I need to make a difference. So I tossed around different ideas about what to study next and thought, well, if I go into natural medicine, I can teach people to live more naturally. That was sort of the start. I went to acupuncture school. And then when I graduated, I moved to Portland, Oregon, which is a place where a lot of mold grows. And I did not know while I was getting like sicker and sicker and starting my career that I had mold in my home. I didn't know for like 9 years of living there. So, I was working first with just kind of general acupuncture stuff. Then I got online doing women's health a little bit because of my own journey as like a young mom, unwittingly having mold and just being chronically ill and anxious. So I was like, well, I want to work with women going through things like this. And it was sometime later I found out I had mold. That really changed the trajectory of our family. And it just, at some point I was like, I can't not talk about this and specialize in this after going through it. So, slowly I shifted from women to detox to mold. You can't just overnight surprise people with that one. And also I was slowly getting healthier and healthier. Like there's no way I could have written that book, even a year earlier probably would have been too much. So yeah, I'm glad. I think it's a really rich topic because it affects the body in so many ways that it's sort of endless what you can study. And as we talked about, or I don't know if we talked about this earlier, but I get bored and I want to keep learning, and mold keeps me learning.
So complex. It's a never ending chasm of, it's freaking hilarious. What were some of the things that you got diagnosed with earlier on before you figured out it was mold?
So I was going through my FDN training and I took like the tests that they have you take. So I guess I found leaky gut, parasites, like low adrenal function. Then I found low thyroid and a little bit of Hashimoto's. So that was a little scary. Candida. What else did I find? Low hormone levels, low sex hormone levels. That might be enough.
You know, it's crazy. It was actually Reed Davis who helped me out with my mold journey, because after going through FDN and doing labs on myself, like I had got like 80% better, but there was still this lingering stuff. And he was just diving into mold himself. And I was like a guinea pig for him. He's like, why don't we test you for microns, and let's test you for blah, blah, blah. He had me do the VCS test, which I know you didn't have good luck with. But I failed it. And then I did cholestyramine, and then I passed it. And yeah, so it was kind of funny that I have to have Reed Davis to actually thank for on my mold journey. But yeah, it was sad because if I remember correctly from reading your book, I mean, you moved from Oregon to Arizona, correct? Thinking that it was going to be kind of drier and less mold. And didn't you still end up running into mold when you were in Arizona?
Not in Arizona. I just wasn't getting better as quickly as I thought. You know, I that definitely, I think there's subconsciously in my brain, I thought, oh, everything's gonna clear right up. But my body was so beat down, like so many body systems were depleted. My immune system was low, like my white blood cell count was low, my hormones were still low, still had parasites, still had candida. So it was just still, you know, I say especially probably that first year of still feeling like a sick person, which was a bummer. But it was good moving here, actually. So there is mold in Arizona. It's not impossible to have mold here, but it does help to be in a drier climate.
Right. Which sucks because I've always wanted to like go to Oregon. Like Oregon for some reason has always seemed magical to me, and I've always wanted to visit. I'm always drawn to these more humid places, but knowing my genetics and my background with mold, like that's just ridiculous for me to even think that I could go live in Oregon.
Yeah, it's real wet and a lot of the homes are old, and yeah, I mean, it is magical. When I first moved there, I was like Sex in the City, except like it was me in Portland with my dog. Like I was just in love with it, with flowers. And yeah, it's taken its own turn in time. But when I moved there, which was only like 2004, it was a city and a really sweet place. So I didn't ever think I would move. But like, I think I've learned, and I encourage people going through mold with this, like your life path, you don't know where it's headed, and you just have to be, you know, open to wherever it goes next. Like you can't be like, oh, well, it can only go this way. You know, I'm sure you've been through some of those things, Heather, that we
plot twist,
referred to.
Twist.
Yeah.
Like, it's like every time I turn around, I'm like, okay, I give up. I give up trying to make plans and put things in place, because it seems like every time I do, somebody's laughing at me and goes, oh, watch this.
Yeah, in business too, it goes the same way. It goes relationships, business. You just don't, you know, we like to think we know what's coming up.
We don't know.
We don't. And when the things turn, you just really have to have some faith that, you know, it's always going to be for the better.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny when you talked about getting into mold because of your own history. I mean, it was the same reason I got into Lyme. Like, I remember starting back out again a couple years ago, and people at the beginning knowing my story, because I was working more with autoimmune and kind of mental health stuff. And people were like, isn't Lyme part of your story? Like, why aren't you working with Lyme clients? And I'm like, have you met a Lyme client? Like, they're the most complex, right? Sensitive, you know, a lot of times financially, you know, unstable. Like, it really can be a very tough niche to work with. And it wasn't until I felt like I got a Godsmack one day that I kind of woke up and was like, oh crap, it's time. I have to step into this, right? Because I've gotten on the other side, and now it's time for me to help people on the other side.
To give back. Yeah. And it is complex.
You know, in the old world, like this was such an easy how-to. That's probably why I've dog-eared so many pages, because it's just so freaking practical. It's amazing. Like, you've taken a very complex subject and distilled it down to very bite-sized doable pieces.
Yeah, thank you. And we've produced so many blogs that I'm all about the bullet points. I'm all about the short paragraphs.
Right.
So I think that history, helped. And then having gone through it myself and knowing like the timeline and where you're going to be emotionally at different stages, I couldn't have written that book if I hadn't lived it. So I probably similar for you with Lyme. Then it makes you realize like, well, I could help someone navigate this. And I know whatever they're feeling and dealing with isn't about me. It's a hard thing. So it really helped me kind of grow a thicker skin about, I'm not here to, solve every one of your problems. I'm just here to hopefully like give you a lot of help along the way.
Absolutely. On that note, this is a great place to take a little pause and have a commercial break. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
I had a life and then I had Lyme. The wave one, having seen what I've seen and the results and the many testimonials, it just really makes sense. The thing that I just have wanted the most is just to heal with my kids and just have fun. And so for me, it just ignited this new spark, like our life is so short, our health is so precious.
Hey, welcome back. So we were just getting a little bit of backstory on Miss Bridgit Danner here, the amazing author of the Ultimate Toxic Mold Recovery Guide. If you don't own this, I highly recommend it. It is like the most practical, easy to use how-to guide for mold. And so she was just giving us a little bit of background on, being an acupuncturist and FDN and a young mother and, moving. So what are describe to me a little bit about your practice now and the type of folks that you typically work with and what's your sweet spot? Who do you love, helping out the most?
Yeah, we're in a bit of a unique situation that people are usually coming to us already knowing quite a bit about, what they're dealing with in their health. They've already had testing. I mean, I just had a client. I don't see that many clients. I have a coach who mostly sees the clients, but I saw a woman the other day and she was there for her mother and she'd already had a mold testing, Lyme testing, heavy metal testing. I think there was one other one she brought me, gut testing maybe. So it's like pretty nice because I'm getting, on a silver platter, the tests have already been run. I really like
what's wrong with them.
I really love those kind of case reviews where there's a lot of that legwork already done. And then I'm really just sorting out, frankly, I'm taking a lot out often of what they're doing. They're doing too much in their protocol or, what have you. So just trying to really, I think that's sort of one of my strengths as a practitioner is, being cognizant of where the client's at with energy and emotions and everything. You can't be just like by the book with like so many supplements. I mean, this woman was 73 and on like 20 supplements 3 times a day. It's like, of course she's, unhappy with this situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we do some, we have some lab services available and case reviews and we sell supplements. And we really try to be, we are very education based. We do a lot of interviews and blogging and Instagram. So my premise for the most part is like, give education, and the people who are coming to us are already pretty educated. They're just looking for more, fill in the gaps, that kind of thing. Maybe they want to buy a high quality supplement without a lot of fuss and without having to see a practitioner. They can do that. They can, order a lab through a shop. So it makes it really easy. It's funny, FDN teaches a certain way of working with a new client, but we sort of found, I guess, I don't know if it's because we have these more complicated people, they didn't really want to start over from square one with another practitioner yet again, especially selling them like a package.
Right.
They just were like, I want to see what my gut test looks like. So when we switched to starting just ordering like a la carte like that, people really liked it. So we've just kind of stuck with that.
Yeah, it's been tough in the beginning when they teach you the FDN way, and it took a minute to kind of break through with that, because I think in some people's niches they can get away with that, but I think in the mold and Lyme world, more complicated cases, you've really got to meet people where they're at. And if they've already spent all this money on these labs with somebody else and these supplements, like you've got to be able to pivot, right, and meet them where they're at. Like that's where I think I do great as well as a case manager, right, taking all these different pieces that they've already got, because most of them are very well educated. They've had to, right? They've had to become a health advocate. And so by the time they get to me, it's the same thing. They already know they have Lyme. They know they have this. They know they have that. They've done this lab, this supplement. And so now I see the gaps and be like, okay, this is, still going back to the foundations though. It's still crazy to me how many people will see acupuncturists or even other functional practitioners, and all they ever did to them was throw supplements at them in labs, and that's it. They never taught them that they need to be in bed by 10 o'clock, or why they should stay away from, inflammatory foods, like, or are you pooping daily? Like, I'm still just shocked at the level or the lack of non-education going out right now.
Yeah. And as a client, when I was going through mold, and really frankly, one of the lowest points in my entire life, and I was seeing naturopaths and stuff who meant well, but often, like the bedside manner wasn't there. And like you said, just more supplements. And, I was just feeling like broken, so I kind of get being on the side of that. And yeah, I think that's a blind spot sometimes for practitioners. I don't know where it comes from exactly. And I think it may be changing, really, to be honest. I think there's more talk about, the nervous system and trauma and nature. And that's fantastic, because it was really missing when I was a mold client. And it was pretty hurtful to me as a practitioner to see a practitioner. And then I remember one time, and I know they're supposed to do this, but I was just like expressing my naturopath, like, how low I was, and like I had never felt, because I wasn't really historically a depressed person. And she was like, are you going to harm yourself? And like, here's your suicide line number. And it's like, cool, but I feel now like a loser, instead of like, you could have just listened to me and said like, yeah, this must be hard. You're not even living in your own home. Like you're trying to run a business. You've got a 7-year-old, like, shit, this must be hard. That's all she had to say, and I just needed to be heard. So it was not fun, but it was a good learning experience for me in
how not to be a practitioner.
Yeah, I'm not perfect, certainly, but I try to walk the balance of saying to someone, like, say who they won't move out of their home, or they're putting up a lot of resistance. I'll say, I know it sucks. Like, it's a huge decision. There's no easy answer, but also you have to do it. So it's like on both sides, I know how important it is. So I'm willing to ask a very difficult thing of them, but I'm also willing to say, like, yeah, I know it sucks. Your brain isn't even working. Now you got to move. Like, I get it. So we'll see. People can grade my best, but I'm trying to be more aware.
Absolutely. What is your thoughts about when you do have mold in your house and you move, about taking anything with you? Like, I've been told that you can do fogging, or you can do this, or you can do that. But with your experience, what have you seen be the most,
I think it's very difficult to move your things if you've had a real exposure and you're really sick. I think that because we don't want to like waste the money, so to speak, on new things, and it's very inconvenient. Again, I've been there. You're going to move that stuff, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to F up your new place. So I mean, I've seen it for myself. I've seen it for friends. I've seen it for colleagues. I've seen all sorts of examples of that.
Right.
I have seen very few examples of, I mean, I don't even know if I've seen one, to be honest, where somebody moved their stuff and that worked out for them.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think there's, there's, we have a Facebook group and they're like, oh, what about like borax and laundry detergent, and like, if you're really sick, why are you compromising at all? And again, it sucks. Like, it sucks. And you can do some things, like we put some things in storage when we went away and traveled. And we got rid of a lot, but we put some things like hardwood furniture and like desktop computers and some things in storage. We thought, well, we'll see. It doesn't cost much to be in storage. As soon as we opened that thing up, it was like mold rage, like 5 seconds, because now we're exposed to our own stuff, right? I always think your own stuff is the worst for you because your body is like, oh crap, this again? So now we had a whole storage unit of stuff now we had to deal with and get rid of and re-expose ourselves. So I think there's like steps you can take if you're not really willing to give up everything, like put it aside and judge it again. But no, I have so many stories. People always like, oh, what can I wash? What can I clean? Almost nothing. You can clean like steel bowls. You can like something like a computer will get stuff up in the motor. Clothes absorb, books absorb, stuffed animals absorb. That your kids own, it's not easy. And I'm telling a more extreme case, but generally what I'm seeing in my practice is extreme cases.
Well, didn't you have your car get infected, if I remember?
2 cars. Yeah, we ruined 2 cars. I mean, basically the whole book is like, don't do. I did. Yeah, we transported things in the cars, to the next apartment or to the dump, or, just had our clothes on in the car. So one of them we traded in, and we can talk about, is that like a morally bankrupt thing to do? And then one we put in storage. I feel
like I need to go back to my old house that I lived in and put a note on their front door and go, by the way, because I moved out after my divorce, and then my ex-husband sold it like 4 or 5 years later. And I still feel like I should go back to that house and leave a note saying, by the way, if you and your kids get sick, you might want to check out the house. So yeah, you were talking about the moral aspect of that.
So I actually a little bit disagree. Like, again, we're the most sensitive to our own mold, and we have our own history. So, I don't know, if somebody takes like your wooden table and somebody else takes your whatever, like I don't think everyone's going to get sick to the same extent of, right? Like we traded in this car. It's not like we brought it in and they were like, what the hell is wrong with this car? It just seemed like any other car to them. But to us, it was like a bomb going off. So yeah, the first one we kind of just traded in because we needed like to trade it in. And then the second one we put in storage. It was a Prius. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we got to the end. We were just so willing to let go. We were like, it's out. We just brought it in and we picked a different car that same day on the lot. Like we were just like, yeah, yes, can you fog your car? Can you test your car? Yeah, you can do all those things. A car is full of crevices and fabric and all sorts of things. And we're just like, no, we're not doing this over and over again. Right. So
little PTSD with some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. So, I hate to sound like so scary for people. Don't.
I think what they need to hear. I think more straight shooters need to be telling the truth the way that it is, because I think there is a little too much wishy-washy bullshit going on out there, and it's keeping sick and it's keeping people getting reinfected. So I appreciate
because I have no skin in the game if you move or you don't move, right? I'm not getting any money either way. But so I'm just being honest, I had a client come on a Zoom and she was still in the house, really quite handicapped from mold, rashes, couldn't work, would get dizzy, was like PhD in health, right? had run tests, all the things. She had a bunch of Cellcore products like ready to go. She was like, do you think I should do all this protocol? And I was like, you could, but you're going to have to do it all again whenever you finally get out of this house. So we talked actually with her. One solution we had temporarily was live on her screened in deck. Getting creative. But yeah, she was a person who was literally housebound. And she was like, well, we own land and we're going to build a house. It'll be ready in like 2 years. I'm like,
you're gonna live like this for 2 years? Wow.
2 more years. So I think some of it is we are really like, our brains aren't working great, right? We're just exhausted.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because if you look at it from the outside, you're like, why?
Right.
Why? You know,
Why?
you're not in poverty. Like, you know, yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, you weren't planning on at 65 to be living in a temporary apartment. Who cares? Like, you know, so it can be hard. I'm lucky that my ex-husband was like very much like, let's keep this going. Like, let's make these decisions. I don't think I would have. So it's nice to have somebody in your corner, whether it's Heather or me or whoever, like saying like, you matter, your health matters. You've got to make this tough decision. Go do it, you know? So
absolutely. Absolutely. So today's topic is the mold Lyme connection. So can you dive a little deeper into what that connection is?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing a lot, and you can tell me, Heather, is some of my Lyme expert friends, they'll sometimes find out they have Lyme first, probably after many years, and then they'll find out they had mold. And I think what the topic has become is the mold depressing the immune system, let probably a latent mold thrive and come back up. I know Dietrich Klinghardt, I think he says basically like everyone with mold has Lyme and vice versa. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, oh crap. But it makes sense because your immune system is so weakened. So I don't know if everyone who has Lyme also finds out they have mold. You can speak to that more. But I would say if you're listening and you know you have Lyme and you've never looked into mold, it's time, especially perhaps if you're not improving the way that you want.
Absolutely. Those are like the top 3 things I rule out right off the bat, because if not, you've got a person spending a lot of money chasing different things, right? So first off, it's sleep apnea, you know, ruling out sleep apnea, because if you're not getting oxygen to the brain at night, right? All the best supplements and protocol and diet in the world, it's not, you know, it's only going to help 20%. Cavitations, because that was also part of my story as well. If you've got an active infection in your jaw that's affecting your brain and your blood and, you know, keeping your troops scattered, right? That's also going to cause problems. And then the other one is mold. So those 3 things with everybody, it's like, we got to rule that out first before we start going after some of these other critters, because they're just such heavy burdens, right, on the system. It's crazy.
Yeah, those are a great 3 to look at. I like that.
Awesome. Yeah, it was funny. I had a doctor, Dr. Kim Bruno from Vibrant Labs, and she gave me the best analogy the other day of a person who will still live in mold but want to treat. She says it's kind of like brushing your teeth and eating Oreos at the same time. Right? Like, I mean, isn't that a beautiful analogy? I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, how can you truly get better if you're continuing to live in the thing that's making you sick?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess a few practitioners now will be a little hardline and like, I'm not going to see you if you won't move. I mean, we'll talk to you, but we'll be honest. And we're not really like, I'll see you in a month or check on your protocol. Cause you know, the coach who works for me is a little different. She's all like, she's into like the safe room and doing certain things. I'm more like, no safe. But I get it. Like, even we had a kind of a messy transition. Mostly the transition will be messy. But yeah, if you're spending money and your time to heal, but you're still in the mold, it is like the toothpaste and Oreos example.
That's awesome. So what are some of your favorite ways to kind of go at, the mold? If you had just a few, tips and tricks, because obviously we're not going to be able to cover everything, and we're almost, coming to time. And like I said, one way is to get a copy of her book and get some of that information in there. But, what's a few little nuggets that you can drop?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like the foundation, like you talked about earlier, make sure you're getting a good night's sleep, you're pooping, you're getting nature time. I'm really big into getting some movement, even if you can't move much because you're so tired, like get some movement. So once you get those in place and you feel like you're in a good place to detox, I love techniques that move the lymph. I love dry brushing. I love, like, you can rebound, you can get lymphatic massage.
Oh my gosh. Bridget's got the best video on how to do a coffee enema ever.
Oh God.
My all-time favoriteest ways. My freaking life changed after coffee enemas. Most folks with mold and chronic sickness, and I was basically born constipated. I was born full of shit. So anytime we can get that moving. So I'm like, oh my gosh, your video, it inspired me. It was so well done. I'm like,
it's like my most popular video.
Oh my gosh. I was like, I'm going to make one too. And I'm like, why? I'm just going to send people Bridget's because.
Well, I'll tell you, mine is too long. We were just for some reason seeing that, me and my business manager, and I'm like, how is this 18 minutes long? Like, what was I even talking about?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I did try coffee enemas based on Dr. Davidson, who works a lot with mold and one of the founders of Cellcore. And I was like, all right, at this point, I'll try anything. I still probably do them once a week, probably 7 years later. So, they take a few times to get used to, but they recycle glutathione. So that's one important antioxidant. Antioxidants and oxidative damage, I feel like, don't get enough attention in the detox space because at the cellular level, the toxins are creating, you're using up all your antioxidants. There becomes like a imbalanced seesaw. So there's more and more oxidative damage. So a really, can be pretty affordable, safe way is increase antioxidants, whether in diet or in supplement form too. So there's a broad range of things you can do for a broad range of budgets. So it's fantastic. You can make, fresh ginger and turmeric tea. You can drink lemon water. You can take glutathione, you can do a coffee enema. So there's just a lot of options there. And I really like that idea as being very simple. It's a way to support detox. And that can help with things like exercise fatigue, mental fatigue that a lot of people are experiencing with mold. And I would assume with Lyme as well.
Absolutely. Like I'm kind of jealous of those of you like Amy Myers and your detox, because like if I would have known that you could actually like niche into detox, back in 2013, like that would have been my jam, because it wasn't really, things didn't turn around for me until I started dry brushing, saunas, coffee enemas, right? Like, because you've got to detox that crap out of you. So I love what you're doing in this space.
Yeah, I mean, it made it seem like a weird thing to talk about back then still. But I think it's becoming more like mainstream.
Used to get so pissed off at me because I would literally be at like a 4th of July barbecue and I'd be sitting next to me talking to the girl about coffee enemas and he'd like look mortified.
Oh yeah.
But they would lean in and be like, oh really? Tell me more, And
people are fascinated by that.
Right? I mean, thousands of years people have been doing, enemas and coffee enemas. I mean, it's just, yeah. So like I said, God bless those of us that will get out there and talk about that hard taboo stuff, because then there's other people like my ex-husband who's like, oh my God, you can't talk about that at a picnic. I'm like, watch me.
It's not, I mean, I think when I was sick, I hid a lot too. And I mean, you kind of don't want to be a burden, but at the same time, like, why was I just feel like mold wasn't as known. And it's like, I was like ashamed. Like, I didn't want to tell people how sick I was and everything I was going through. Now I'm making up for it. I just never shut up about it.
Back then people are like, I'm sorry, what made you that sick?
And people are a lot more receptive. I feel like now, a lot more understanding. I think there's been a lot of progress.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. So we're, like I said, almost getting close to time, and I still, so we were talking about detox. So yes. So up your antioxidants, get some detox, skin brushing, sauna,
Move
coffee.
your lymph.
What else?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, binders, I guess we didn't really talk about yet. So binders are just like kind of the trash men to make sure that things are going out in the stool. So there's a whole variety of binders, like from very affordable, like charcoal, a little more, I'm saying sophisticated, even though it's still this earth, fulvic and humic acid. There's all like pectin, or just increasing your fiber can help. So you really, you want to think about, are you pooping? Are you sweating? Are you peeing? And all the things that support that. I really like electrolytes because you're usually kind of dehydrated, and electrolytes kind of spark for your brain too. So that's a simple one. I like fish oil or algae oil. Like, it's very simple, but your brain really loves omegas, short chain fatty acids, magnesium. So after you kind of think about like the basics of like antioxidants, binders, you can kind of think about supporting different organs, especially perhaps the ones that you're dealing with. Like if most people with advanced mold are dealing with a brain that's not working right, and that's one of the most troubling things. So phosphatidylcholine I like for the brain. Again, like fibers, supporting the gut, magnesium, fish oil we talked about. Supporting the nervous system, which there's different like training courses and all sorts of things coming up. But that can just be as simple as like mindfulness meditation, walking in nature, like taking time to calm down. Like, I mean, I think my anxiety went way up while I was in mold, and I sort of thought it was my personality. And it's taken a long time to unwind that belief and that pattern in my brain. So I want, people listening, like there's just a lot of hope for your brain health after mold. I'm saying I've seen all these stories of people reinfecting their new space, but I've also heard lots of stories of people getting better from, pretty serious symptoms. So that's great news. It's amazing how much the body really does want to heal. So you just have to keep supporting it.
Absolutely. Amen. That is a beautiful way to leave this. So Miss Bridgit, this is the shameless plug time of the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you. My website is my name, which is BridgitDanner.com. We've got like a bunch of free ebooks, a bunch of blogs. So I just encourage people, like, if you think, oh, maybe I have mold, just take the first little step to kind of learn. Usually that's considering your house, testing your body or your house, but like, it's so overwhelming but just take a little step, to say, let me just find out if this might be me. And there's lots of ways to get started with us on that.
Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us. And while you're at it, go ahead and check me out at TheLymeBoss.com and make sure to download your free cooking video series, Real Cooking for Real Life. Because a lot of times the other reason that we're not getting better is because we're eating an inflammatory, fast food, lifestyle. So let me show you how to make some quick, easy, delicious meals in 20 minutes or less. Believe it or not, cooking, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it definitely needs to be in there. So thanks again for joining us, and all the links and everything will be in the show notes. Don't hesitate to subscribe, like, and share this. So, if you have a family member or a friend that needs to hear this information, please, share, subscribe, love, and stay tuned. Have a healthy day.